Hello, my name is Sarah Brown.
Hello, my name is Henry Wong.
Hi, my name's Hermione.
Hi, my name is Randy.
Hi, I'm Holly Stimpson.
Hi, my name is Charles Robinson.
Hi, my name is Christopher Hoffa.
Hi, I'm Jacob Ryan.
I'm Phoebe Hughes.
Hi, I'm Luca Moretto.
Hi, my name's Angelina Sparksman and I'm here in Dalston in East London to find out what the public think about freedom, their hopes, their aspirations and their predictions for what freedom in 2022 could look like. What does freedom mean to you?
Freedom is having the choice to be able to choose what you do without restrictions.
Do you have fears for freedom in 2022?
I'm worried that these restrictions may become more common and governments may use them for smaller instances just to reduce damage and that sort of thing when it's not necessary and has a huge impact on our freedom.
How do you feel about students being sent home during these times?
Obviously, there are some places that need to be shut if there's been an outbreak. But at my school, for example, there was one boy who tested positive and it resulted in the entire year going home for 2 weeks when really it was only a smaller group. And many people are missing out on their education and obviously adults with work and that sort of thing. It's having an impact on our education.
Do you think that it's the government's role to enforce how we live our lives? For example, do you think the government has a right to tell us when we can and when we can't hug somebody?
There are obviously instances where the government has to make rules, but in this regard, I think giving the public the choice, they'll make responsible decisions for the majority. They won't want to put other people at risk if they know there is a risk, but obviously they don't want to miss all of these things they could be doing when there's no need to, really.
What does freedom mean to you?
Freedom is the possibility of going from one place to another without asking too many questions or without being bothered too much or bothering anybody else, basically. I have family in different countries and friends in different countries, so for me, the lockdown has been quite a difficult thing for me.
Freedom means freedom of speech, freedom to come out of your house, freedom to have choice, freedom to have decisions, and to be able to do the things you need to do.
Do you think it's right for the government to have control over our freedoms?
It depends, when you say freedom, how much control over the people do you mean by control over the people with their freedom? If it's control over certain aspects that the government needs, that's okay, but if it's telling someone they're not allowed to come out the house forever, that's not okay. Because everyone deserves the right to work and the right to travel.
I think now we have a bit more clarity about valuing other people and valuing our freedom more, so I think we might use it more.
What does freedom mean to you?
Well, it means to be free to go about without having to think about it. The control, this is a historical thing. Kings and queens and pharaohs used to control their own lands, and that included with their own people. So this might still be happening.
What does freedom mean to you?
Freedom is your freedom to travel, freedom of speech, freedom to where you think, your choices in life. Freedom is peace of mind.
What fears do you have for freedom going into 2022?
The government. We rely on the government too much for answers, what's right, what's wrong, instead of trusting our own intuition. We rely on others too much for the information, and we need to kind of just go with our own self, really, and trust our own selves.
I think for me, freedom is when you have the ability to do whatever you want without anyone telling you or controlling you or telling you what to do, when, so there's no time restrictions and you just feel free to do whatever you want, really.
And how has this lockdown affected you?
Say that it's impacted people around me personally in terms of jobs, because my dad's a taxi driver. There weren't been a lot of jobs for him, so it's kind of tough on the family, a lot of demand. So I think financially there's been a lot of demand, and just like social life as well, because being at home quite often can be very depressing.
And do you think that lockdown will have an effect on your future?
It has already. already, because already there's been certain types of rules that are already impacting. So the idea of vaccine passports, forcing people to take the vaccine in a way, just in order to live like a normal life. So it's already impacted in that kind of way. And really, I don't know, just everyday life is not how it used to be. People walking around with masks. You have to scan your ID card with the NHS app everywhere you go. So life's already changed as we know it.
I'm from Australia, and my sister had a baby during lockdown about 10 months ago, and I've not had the chance to go and visit her because of restrictions, which is really upsetting for me. I mean, it's tough because all governments are different. I think in England, you guys are doing so well with vaccinations, whereas back home in Australia, you can't get a vaccine. So I think restrictions here will be lifted, and I'll be like, yay, but I still won't be able to go home.
So, what does freedom mean to you?
Freedom to be able to do what you want to within reason. So nothing harmful, but freedom just of expression, how you want to dress, etc., and how you want to act as well. You know, not being constrained by convention or what is a sort of social norm. I think there's a lot of freedoms have sort of disappeared. You know, it used to be that everything was legal until it was made illegal, and now we sort of starting to go the other way around, which I don't think is really the way to go. You know, you need to be able to express yourself, and you know, in the arts or sciences or whatever it happens to be, to say this is the new norm and not be prevented from doing that. I think what will be interesting is how people split between those who are comfortable being locked down and those who aren't comfortable being locked down. I'll probably fall into the latter category.
Like I had a sick family member in a different country, and it was very difficult to go and be with them. I managed to, but I couldn't be there when they passed, and I won't be able to be there for their funeral. So that's definitely been the main thing that's affected me from lockdown, and like all the restrictions and everything.
Freedom to me means freedom from the state and freedom for everyone. No one's free till everyone's free.
Freedom means the ability to express yourself, whether it's as a person, as a musician, as a friend, anything, and having the courage to do it in front of the world.
And what does it mean to you?
Oh, freedom is when you can speak up and not being afraid to speak up about anything. What is freedom for me?
Well, the government's role is to look after the people. You're not really, I would say, a monarchy. During the time of monarchy, that's when the king could impose his power. We're in a time where we're relying on government to help and support us, not control us. Yeah. I feel the law's more lenient with politicians. They get away with a lot more. I feel like even lockdown, they can control it as to what days they want off and what days they want on. So they're really in control of. It's not like we have any vote or say in how this whole matter is going.
Do you have any hopes and fears for your freedoms in 2022?
Yeah, just in case like we go back into lockdown or anything. Yeah, that would be really sad.
My hopes are that just like normal life can start again.
Well, what can we hope for, really? We're coming out of a pandemic, which has been terrible for everyone, every race, every culture, all around the world. So, really, what I want is for us to just unite and stay strong together and, well, believe that we are just one.
Do you think the government's decisions and their lack of trust within the public has kind of impacted us?
Well, of course it has, because as I say, what is freedom this day and age? We're told, well, we're cast upon, we're judged by the way we look, we're judged by the way we speak, where we come from, what background we got, what ethnicity groups we are, when at the end of the day, we're all here together, we're all one. I've lost someone through COVID, and yet we can go and bury them. Yeah, it's all right for people to go to Ascot, watch the race, and people to go to Wimbledon, people to go to the World Cup and that. Yet, when you're getting married, you want your family to be there. At births, you want your partner to be there. And you can't have none of that. But if you're Boris Johnson, you can be in the birthing room. You can do this, you can do that. You can go for a 100-mile bike ride. But, oh yeah, it's perfectly sane. But we can't even walk to the shop without getting pulled over saying, oh, are you breaching COVID rules and that? And like, on the trains, they're not wearing masks, or they're doing interviews, they're not wearing masks, and then they're condemning people for speaking in public and not wearing masks. Yet how can you be like that? How can you be like that?
But there'll be no facilities for homeless people. That's what I find a fear for myself.
Right.
That there'll be people out on the street without any facilities, any access to food or food banks. That's kind of like a fear that I get.
I'm assuming you didn't attend any hotels.
No, I didn't. There wasn't any room at the time when I was going to, but they did offer me at first in the centre of London. But I tended to kind of like stay in the suburbs and stayed in the woods, slept in the woods, and then when things calm down a bit, like I've just got emergency accommodation, it's just temporary, but it helps.
So, do you have any worries with the oncoming easing of the lockdown restrictions as to what this is going to do to society and just London in general?
Maybe everyone's going to go a bit wild. I think it'll be fine. I think there's enough people who's been vaccinated, and the younger generation's more robust. So I think we'll be all right.
So, what do you want out of 2022 in terms of freedom?
Well, first of all, I probably want for the things to come back as they were before the pandemic, it's quite unrealistic, but that would be probably the perfect picture. And to especially have the freedom to travel without vaccine passports. Freedom for me is when I can go to a pub, go to a club, go back home without someone telling me that you need to do that and to have that to be able to do that stuff. I want to be independent on my own, where I want to go, where I want to stay, when I want to hug people, where I want to kiss people, where I want to talk with anyone I want without someone telling me that you cannot today or from tomorrow you can do that.
And do you think 2022 will be better than 2021 as a year?
I think yes, but because now people are still scared, people are still not used to the situation of coming out of the lockdown. In 2022, it's gonna be a bit different. People are gonna relax more. People are gonna get used to the idea of what's happening in the world right now.
So for me, freedom is something that is, you feel it, you know it when you feel it, and when you don't have it, you can also feel it. So when I have to think about whether I can go out safely without being criticized, that's when I know I don't have it. And the moments I know I can go outside without having to think about, do I have my mask with me? Do I have to queue outside the supermarket or go to a different one? I know in that moment that I have it.
How do you think this year and the previous year of lockdowns has had an effect on how we view freedom in the long run as well?
I think it's too soon to say whether we're going to feel comfortable with giving our freedom away. I think society as a whole needs to be able to give a response in due time in order for us to answer that question.
My hopes are that freedom is spread equally and that not the most privileged are looked after. My fears are that, especially with the recent bill passed by police, that things are just going to get more authoritarian and that is going to spread, not just in the police but in wider government structures. This whole pandemic has definitely brought people together. I definitely felt that. I'd hope that would stay for longer and we all care for each other a bit more now. I hope there's government policies are re-looked at, re-evaluated, because some of the most disadvantaged people have not been looked after during this whole pandemic and we need to fix that. I think people are more conscious but also very ready to get back into their own lives after freedom's been stripped away.
Fundamentally, whilst I think that it's important to give freedom back to the people considering how long that people have been without it, I think that the certain safeties put in place by lockdown are there for a reason. I feel like in an attempt to overcorrect for this lack of freedom, we might only then further prolong this COVID experience because infection rates might spike. That's mainly my fear for it.
Historically, freedom for me has been centred around
being able to go where you want to go and being able to travel, being documented. I come from an immigrant family. My parents are from East Africa and had to leave there quite abruptly. And so freedom of movement has always been something that's really important. I think having a baby, lockdowns brought so many challenges. Having a baby during lockdown was in some ways quite liberating, because I didn't have to deal with all the usual things that expectant mothers have to deal with, and I was able to work from home, so I didn't have to deal with public transport. But the other side of it was that nobody kind of really knew I was pregnant, and it all felt a bit surreal. And obviously not being able to really talk to people, my partner not being able to come to the hospital with me, all those things were quite difficult.
As soon as you start eroding people's liberties without them even being aware of it, forgetting about the lack of health centres, legal aid centres, support networks for people living in poverty and outside it, as soon as you start eroding all that, that is incredibly destabilising, and it's insidious and silent. And for me, the only antidote to dismantling of the working class and people who work's liberty is some kind of connections, grassroots, like the kind of work that you're doing, creating an alternative media. I mean, the true media, the real media.
Do you think there is a way that we can have sufficient freedom and safety at the same time without contradicting one or the other?
Of course. And obviously choices have to be made, but it's in whose interest are those choices made? I mean, there must be some wonderful health organisations that rest on people's expertise and links with, wide variety of people's views. Yes, I'm not saying knock all that down, but listen to the people who you are meant to be serving. And the big thing about government is surely it should be serving the interests of everyday ordinary people, not themselves.